Here, we're going to wait just a minute, see if anybody hops on, and then we'll get going on this. All right, let's go ahead and jump into this. This is the Refi Til Ya Die campaign. I'm not sure a whole lot of people are familiar with this, but it is an investment strategy that was created by Jason Hartman, or at least, he's a big proponent of it. And he is the CEO of Empowered Investor and Real Estate Tools. You can find him at jasonhartman.com. And he's been involved with several thousand real estate transactions around the country. So he does have quite a bit of experience, and that's in numerous states around the US. But if you go to the site jasonhartman.com, you can find podcasts, blogs, resources, a lot of educational tools that probably better explain what I'm going to do here today. But Refi Til Ya Die is a investment strategy that tells you to never pay off your mortgage. Essentially, the rule of 72 states that your home will double in value every X number of years, 12 being the average, but can be sooner in states like Florida. So once you have enough equity, you strip that equity out of the home with a cash out refinance, and then go buy another investment property. And you rinse and repeat over the years. Once you have enough equity, you go through another cash out refi and buy another property and continue to grow your portfolio that way. The way you employ this tool is to refinance your property for more than the original purchase price based on the increased cash flow. This will allow you to reinvest the amount of your loan that exceeds the original purchase price. So it's based on leverage. You're using the bank's money as opposed to your own, or you can subsidize your income tax-free because there's no tax on borrowed funds. So it's very counterintuitive to the way we grew up and what we were taught over the years. We were all taught to pay on your mortgage, and a lot of people go on 15-year mortgage terms so they can pay it off in half the time. But one potential challenge with that is that if you ever get in a bind financially, you're bound to that higher mortgage payment. The alternative, and I guess more popular option, would be a 30-year term, making double payments consistently along the way. But problem is, a lot of us don't have the discipline to consistently make double mortgage payments every month. But with Refi Til Ya Die, there are certainly a number of benefits. Number one being you get to keep your investment. So most people jump to the fact that they need to sell without giving renting an option, but they also don't have a better place to park their money once they do sell the property. And once you sell, you lose your investment. So with the rule of 72, or excuse me, the Refi Til Ya Die, you get to keep your investment. You also get to keep the tax benefits of owning real estate. So there's certain write-offs that you can get: property management fees, mortgage interest, legal and accounting fees. So you get to keep those tax benefits if you hold on to the home. The rule of 72 does apply, stating that the value of the property will double every X number of years, usually 7 to 12 years. And a different subset of this Refi Til Ya Die campaign is just subsidizing your income rather than reinvesting it. But it is tax-free because you can't get taxed on borrowed funds. And another benefit is you have a legacy property, something to leave your kids when you pass along. They can continue down the Refi Til Ya Die campaign. They could sell the property or just sit tight and allow the tenants to pay the mortgage down. So you buy and hold properties every 7 to 12 years, depending on how quickly you gain equity. And then you refi at 80% loan to value, hold them for life, or at least until the 27.5 years to finish the IRS depreciation schedule. Or you can do a tax cost segregation study and use those funds to buy yet another investment property. So going back to the rule of 72, it's a calculation. It's not specific to real estate per se, but it's definitely applicable. Rule of 72 estimates that the number of years it takes to double your money at a specified rate of return. If, for example, your account earns 4%, divide 72 by 4, you get the numbers it will take to double your money, which would be 18 in this case. If your account earns 6%, then it would take 12 years to double. But with real estate, Income property is the most debt-friendly asset class in America. It's also the most tax-favored asset class in America and the most historically proven class in the entire world. So who we have here is Ben Sensenbach. You all know him as one of the co-owners of the Realty Medics. So I'd like to just pick his brain. I know he believes in Refi Til Ya Die, as do I, and Tommy, our broker, as well. Welcome, Ben. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Jay. Great intro so far.
I'm not going to try to take up too much of Ben's time because I know he does have a flight to catch across country. So we'll shoot some questions at you, and then if you want to take off after that, and we'll finish the webinar. That's just
as much time as you need, Jay.
All right, Ben. Why do you believe Refi Til Ya Die is an effective strategy, in your opinion?
Well, I mean, that's a big loaded question, but I guess about eight or 9 years ago, that's what I kind of entered into the real estate market for the second time after the downturn. And I guess I'm a bad seller at heart. So but the Refi Til Ya Die, it's a performing asset, and I've been able to grow the portfolio by doing exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. I think there's just way too many advantages in keeping real estate than to sell it and worry about the 1031s and all of the other tax consequences of when you sell.
Yeah. I assume that you can grow your portfolio considerably faster using this method as opposed to saving up 20% down for every single property. That could take years, right?
Right. So yeah, I mean, Florida is a market that has appreciated a lot, and I believe still has a long ways to go. But just a 3% increase per year on a $300,000 house is still about $50,000 in 5 years. And also over that time, if you have a 30-year mortgage, you're going to pay it down by 20. So you got $70,000 in equity that you're going to, and that's only in 3%. But I believe, Florida has been growing it faster than that. I mean, we're one of the fastest growing states, at least of size, around. So I think there's a lot of advantages in keeping that money and refining out. And what I do is I am buying additional either land or additional properties every year, if not every quarter.
Mm-hmm. So do you ever put in your own funds, or is this something you just keep doing the Refi Til Ya Die campaign and rinse and repeat?
I mean, you can put in some funds. I mean, I had to buy the first 3 properties with funds. And then after that, I started, I guess, refining those out after an X amount of time, and started putting down 20%, or I was buying lots and building on those lots. Mm-hmm. That was a big one, which I picked up a lot of land with. That's a whole nother strategy, but I did grow the portfolio that way as well. Yeah,
build a rent campaign, that's going to be considerably more involved. But yeah, you can do it just by using your current equity in your property every time it doubles. Right. Is there ever a time where it didn't work out?
I mean, there's always going to be a property that doesn't perform to your liking. So, you can't say it works 100% of the time. If you're building a new construction house, that's going to be much more likely than buying a condo or something like that, where there's an unforeseen circumstances that happen. So, but basically the refi, and then on new construction or newer properties, where you can even do the cost segs on, you remodel a house or rehab a house, you can do the cost segregation, which again, if you have income that's above a W-2, you do your cost segregations, which will give you majority will give you a lot of money back depending on your exact tax situation. But for me, it was a decent amount of money that I was able to reinvest and buy additional properties and continue down the line.
Do you see any real disadvantages with this program, other than maybe just things not working out 100% of the time, or is there anything that people should be wary about?
I mean, you're increasing your debt, so you got to make sure that you are keeping 25% or so of equity always in your house. I believe in that. not to over leverage, in case there is a downturn, especially like over the next 18 months. What are we exactly going to see? Hopefully it's not a downturn, it's more of a slight increase. But at the end of the day, you also have to have a strategy when to flip the switch and go into a full-on retirement mode. I think there is that mode at some point when you're done growing your portfolio. I'm not sure I would feel comfortable taking all of the properties all the way through retirement and hold a large loan balance. I'll have to deal with my tax strategy at that point. But it might make more sense to sell some of the houses and start paying down, flip the switch and taking all that extra cash and incrementally paying down more and more properties. Once I want to go full retirement mode and need the cash for living expenses at that time.
Okay.
It's also, when you refi, you're also lowering your actual cash burden for the month. So if I'm making $300 a house, or let's say $500 a house per month in cash flow, that's $6,000 a year, times that by how many houses you have. If you're still going to have to pay whatever tax bracket you are at the end of the year, 30% probably. But if you decrease your cash flow and take out, like in that original scenario, I said in 5 years, you'd probably be able to recoup about $70,000 if you refi that house. You don't have to pay that tax on the cash flow. You now have over a 5-year period without even worrying about cash flow whatsoever. But if you 3% increase, you get $50,000 of equity, a $20,000 decrease, so you have $70,000 over 5 years. That's $1,100 in cash you just recouped in one refinance, which is a very high performing asset. Now, if you made $1 of income on any of those months of cash flow on top of that, you've really done well. Where if you just focus in on how much money did I make last month, it might have been $200 or whatever, but if you look at the the amortization, the principal pay down, and the 3%, 5%, or whatever it is, these properties really are gain a lot of wealth. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
So what LTV can you refinance up to on your investment properties versus your primary residence?
I think there's programs for everything, but 75% is the rule I use. Primary, you can do a lot more. You can play with home equity lines of credit, stuff like that. But that's just depends on your strategy.
Yeah. So if you are using your primary residence, would you say the home equity line of credit is a safer bet than refinancing entirely?
I don't know if it's a safer bet. You're still borrowing money.
True.
So you either make the payment or you don't. You just got to make sure you have enough cash flow to help you make that payment, is the way I believe it. So, maybe I got a big raise at work, or did I get, using my extra cash flow from my properties to help me make that. So for me to take on a primary residence, line of credit or a loan, I want to make sure I have cash from somewhere else so it doesn't affect my monthly burn rate. So I want to make sure I bring in money from somewhere. Those are rental properties or Airbnbs or wherever you can get that extra funds to support that. So you're not extending yourself.
So if part of my end goal by holding on to the properties is to leave a legacy property for my children, wouldn't I be leaving them a property that's riddled with debt?
Well, it's still going to be increasing 3 to 5% a year at a minimum, right? And it still is it still has tax deduction, and it might have been depreciated by that time after 27 and a half years. So it might be time to sell that property and move it into something else. But hopefully, when you leave your legacy, hopefully that money that you used, you pulled out is used to buy additional properties or additional income investment sources, right? So you're not going to have much money if you're just worrying about the equity and they're going to sell off your estate at the end of the day. Okay.
So if the rule of 72 says that property will double every X number of years, and national average is, I think, 12 years, is Florida considerably faster than that?
yeah, compared to the north, to the west, compared to the north, yeah, it is, because we can still buy houses in the $200,000-$300,000 range. So the chances of them doubling is probably pretty good. A lot of houses I bought in 2014 were 90,000. Now they're worth 300,000. So they've tripled 3 times. That's not going to happen 3 times probably, but just, yeah, the affordability of living here and how much green space we have left is still very positive. The Sun Belt is much different, I think, than a $1 million, 1,000 square foot in San Francisco that's going to cost.
Yeah. And I guess just to piggyback off what you're saying with the affordability here, give a shameless plug out to Tommy. He's got some brand new construction homes in hot communities. They're going for 230, 240. So if you have any interest in that, please reach out to us. But moving on, if I'm subsidizing my income, so rather than purchasing more investment properties, if I'm just doing this to subsidize my income because it's tax-free, if I'm subsidizing my income, is it true that I'm actually attaining a higher valuation on those funds? Because if I earned them through working, I'd be taxed. Yet if I'm borrowing the funds, I'm not taxed. So is it a higher valuation? What's the point in using those funds to not reinvest just to subsidize your income?
I don't know if I followed that question, to be honest with you, Jay. Are you saying when you're in retirement mode, if you refi and take that money versus living off the cash flow?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it depends on how much money you're bringing in and what tax bracket you're in when you're in retirement. Because if you're only in a 10% or 15% tax bracket during retirement years, it's much different than if you're at 37.
Yeah.
So if you have a lot of income in retirement, then I would defer the income or find other tax strategies to avoid.
Would you say is Refi Till You Die a better philosophy for a younger generation or an older generation? Does it matter? You get started at any point.
Everyone's a little different. It's just it's an effective strategy if it meets your criteria. So it fits mine. So I think it's probably more of a younger than an older situation. I mean, someone who is, in their 60s or retired is probably not going to be refining unless there's a strong reason for it.
So I think many people that hear this campaign are probably be skeptical because it's absolutely contrary to what they were taught growing up. But being in the Central Florida market, is this still going to be a very effective strategy moving forward? I mean, I don't even know a crystal ball, but we may not be growing as fast as we were, but we're still growing.
Yeah, I'm still buying.
Something you're going to continue to do. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm going to watch the market and interest rates, of course, like everyone else in the world, and seeing what's going to happen. But I don't think it's necessarily there's a massive shortage. I mean, our rental prices and stuff are going out of control right now. Not necessarily home prices, but just housing shortage in general. And a lot of institutions and iBuyers and all the big money is kind of paused in buying. So that means still less houses in our market, and we still have people moving here every day. So it's very different, Florida versus again, West Coast.
So what are we missing on the Refi Till You Die strategy that viewers should know? Is there anything that it's pretty straightforward? Is it just?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly we're missing anything. It's just something to always consider. Some people can handle leveraging money. I don't worry about the debt as much as I watch the overall asset increase at that appreciation rate. But there are some people that just absolutely do not like taking on debt. So, and they would rather buy stuff in cash. And you and I both have a very good friend who's close to our age who does that, and it works for him. But it's just not being scared of debt is something I'm not afraid of, and it's worked well. But this isn't a forced way of investing. It's just consider all your options kind of thing.
Okay. Awesome. Well,
I just want to say one last thing. The return on equity on the property performance dashboard is one of the most important numbers I always look at, because I do look at how well is my equity working for me, and knowing where that is on that on our property performance dashboard just kind of triggers me to know when to refi, though. I really do look at that number, and that tells me, is the money working effectively, or should I be looking at other opportunities? You know, is one property performing as well as I think it is? So I really do use that number a lot. That's why I added it to the dashboard, to be honest.
So for those who have not hopped onto that property performance dashboard, it's absolutely an amazing tool to help you decide what to do, you know, with your property. But it's a good time to purchase another property, maybe it's time to sell or sit tight. But go to owners.therealtymedics.com, select forgot password, and follow the steps, get you in. Everybody has access to it. And Ben, that's all the questions I have for you. And you got to catch a flight, but if you want to stick around, you're welcome to. Otherwise, I'm going to jump into, there's a 4.5-minute video that Jason Hartman put out on his site. And this is actually talking about the, you know, living off the funds. So I'm going to share my screen with you and give you an opportunity to watch this video.
Let's talk about one of the game plans that we have talked about for many years, which is the concept of refi till you die. Okay, you've heard of the rule of 72s, right? And that just means that things double. Okay, and we'll see how they double at different rates. So in this example, let's talk about a property portfolio where you purchase 10 properties in diverse markets, and say the properties were $100,000 each. So you've got 10 $100,000 properties. To buy them, 20% down is $200,000. And then you've got closing costs, that's about $35,000. And then you've got reserves. Remember, I did say 4%. 4% of $1 million is $40,000. So $275,000 total. And here's how it works. You started with this $1 million portfolio, 10 properties, diverse markets. And so the way it looks is like this. You've got your $235,000 initial investment. You've got loans for $800,000, or 80% of the value. And your equity is $200,000. When 12 years go by, at that 6% appreciation rate, your portfolio is going to double by the rule of 72. So now you've gone from 1 million to 2 million in 12 years. Say you're 40. 40 is the new 25. So now your property is doubled. You're 52, and you've got $1 million gain already. And you stopped. You just did the 10 and you quit. And then you just let it ride. You go to the bank and you say, hey, I've got equity in here, so I want to pull my equity out. I want to engage in something I call equity stripping. You have the properties, you own the assets, but you strip the equity out of them. You still own the asset, but you got all the money out. So then the bank says, okay, your $2 million portfolio, 80% of that, we will loan you that. So we're going to give you loans totaling $1.6 million. And now your equity has doubled to $400,000, difference between 2 million and 1.6 million in financing. So $400,000 in equity. And you've got $800,000 in cash that you can now stuff under your mattress. You can go to Las Vegas and gamble it away. You can, do whatever. For the next 12 years, if you just take this $800,000 and divide it by 12, and you don't invest it, you stick it under your mattress, it earns zero return, you have $67,000 a year tax-free. Why? Because there's no tax on borrowed money. This $67,000 tax-free is equivalent to, well, it depends on your tax bracket, $100,000 is fair. That's about $100,000 taxable equivalent. So let's go to the next cycle. Let's go another 12 years. Now, remember, you're only 52 and you're now living on this tax-free money every year. Another 12 years, now you're 64 years young. And 64 is the new 40. Now your property portfolio has doubled again. It's worth $4 million. And you've got a $3 million gain from your original $1 million investment. And you go to the bank and say, hey, refinance me 80% loan to value. Okay, we'll give you $3.2 million in loans. Your equity has now doubled again to $800,000. And you got $1.6 million in cash. Now you've got $1.6 million. And for the next 12 years, just divide it. Don't invest it. Don't earn anything on it. Stick it under your mattress. You have $133,000 a year to spend tax-free. That's probably equivalent to about, nearly $200,000 a year in taxable. So you're 64. Now let's go 12 more years. And now how old are we? We're 76 years young. 76 is the new 55. And now our portfolio is worth $7 million. We refi, we get 6.4 million in loans. We have 1.6 million in equity. Our equity has quadrupled. So now we've got $1.6 million in equity. We've got an asset worth $8 million, a $7 million gain, and we've got $3.2 million cash out tax-free. Divide by 12, we got $250,000 a year tax-free to live off until we're 88. 88 will be the new 68. This is a projection. You should always check with your tax advisor about tax benefits. And if you'd like to learn more, listen to my podcast and visit my website at jasonhartman.com.
All right, so that was just a quick video on a subset of Refi Til Ya Die, where you're just living off the funds. So if anybody has any questions, happy to answer them if I'm capable of doing so. But if you do want to learn more, jasonhartman.com, great resource. In terms of using the Refi Til Ya Die strategy to buy more investment properties, I do it, Ben does it, Tommy does it, a number of people we know do engage in this investment philosophy as well. But if you had any other questions that you wanted to shoot me over an email with, by all means, it's jason@therealtymatics.com, or you can call me directly at 407-792-5688. I got a question here. Can you share the link to that YouTube video? Absolutely, I will. In fact, you know what? I'll take this whole recording and I'll shoot it out as well to everyone, and also include the link to this video and see what else I can throw in that email. But I hope this helped, and if you need anything else, just let us know. Thanks, everyone.